Today we celebrate an extremely momentous occasion. We celebrate an event in history that has affected our economy, our quality of life, our dedication, and our decision-making process. Over 40 years ago, a stalwart in our community, the then Chief Minister, the late Dr. the Honorable Willow Wheatley, MBE, LLB, forged a way with combined efforts of the governments of 1971 and 1975 to ensure the British Virgin Islands was no longer required to receive grant and aid. Therefore, the BVI will be sustained itself. There was a vision that the BVI was greater than it may have been or it appeared to be. That the BVI was capable of standing on its own financial feet. And the quality of life for BVI landers should have been better than it was. A far cry and vision away from the idea that the BVI was only fit to raise birds. I can imagine the tense discussions held around those tables as the governments of the day labored and deliberated, determined to make the BVI better, determined to make the BVI financially self-sufficient. I can imagine their thoughts and how much they considered the future of a territory, concerned more about their children and grandchildren than they did about themselves. Can you imagine? The event took place 40 years ago, during a time when I was but a child, and not at all concerned about the business of the government. That was no concern of mine at that age. In present day, throughout the public service, we are heavily focused on transforming the public service. We are making important decisions today that will positively affect the youth of today and tomorrow. Just like I was at their age, not concerned about the business of government. They just trust you and I to do the right thing, to secure a future for them regardless of what it took. Will you do the right thing? We have been grateful and thankful to those public officers that have influenced decisions in the past. Decisions that have created for us a territory that remains prosperous. Persons like Mr. Elihu Reimer, Mr. Douglas Wheatley, President and former financial secretaries like Mr. Robert McTavish, Neil Smith, and presently Mr. Glenroy Forbes, with whom financial prudence could have been threatened if they were not serious about their business. How about the late C.B. Romney, Honorable Ralph T. O'Neill, or current Premier and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Honorable D. Orlando Smith, OBE? What about the stalwarts of the public service, such as the late Mr. Georges? Do you think the late H.L. Stout played a part? Who was credited with establishing the cruise ship pier, creating the Social Security scheme, overseeing the construction of the Central Administration Complex, and spearheading the development of the college. The path was laid by our founding fathers and mothers, many of whom we have present today. Mrs. Parsons is here. Mrs. Dancia Penn is here. Past Deputy Governor Mrs. Allen's is here, and others. The BVI has been focused on staying on the path of prosperity. Even after the recent hurricanes, this must still be our mission. The public service is the largest employer of a territory, and I believe that through a transformed public service, when we get certain things right, our good governance, the redesign of the public service, the combination of the private and public sector working in partnership, we will be on our way to securing another 40 years. To conclude, it is our vision within the public service that will not only be regional leaders, but be on par with Singapore, Estonia, and other world leaders in the business of good governance and financial prudence. We must be focused on the way to create an amazing BVI, a BVI that will be considered a world leader sitting on a vibrant and sustainable economy, so attractive that the rest of the world, that our twin pillars which are the bedrock of our foundation, will not be our only pillars. This is the foundation for another 20 years. The BVI is filled with brilliant minds and individuals who continue to want more for our territory. You're sitting right here in the room. You represent that body. We must not settle for where we are currently, for our current state can never be our final state. We must ensure that we have a yearning desire to continue to build these Virgin Islands so that in 40 years, the present generation will be excited about what we have done, excited about carrying on the foundation that you have laid and others have laid.